In 1947, the city of San Francisco witnessed a series of homicides that would fundamentally challenge our understanding of criminal psychology. Between March and September of that year, 4 prominent professionals lost their lives under circumstances so peculiar, so methodically staged, that the case would become a landmark study in forensic profiling. The first victim was discovered on March 15, 1947. Dr. Marcus Rell, a cardiovascular surgeon of considerable reputation, was found deceased in his brownstone residence on Telegraph Hill. What distinguished this scene from typical homicides was a single, deeply unsettling detail. A full-length mirror had been positioned exactly 6 feet from where Dr. Rell sat in his study chair. The mirror's placement was precise, deliberate, ensuring that the victim's final view would be of his own reflection. The San Francisco Police Department initially treated this as an isolated incident. However, on April 22, 1947, a second body was discovered. Thomas Chen, an architect whose designs had transformed the city's skyline, was found under nearly identical circumstances in his Pacific Heights apartment. Again, the mirror. Again, the precise positioning. And again, evidence suggesting the victim had been seated, facing his reflection, for an extended period before death occurred. By May 30, 1947, when journalist Margaret Sullivan, a Pulitzer Prize recipient, became the third victim, the pattern was unmistakable upon examination of all 3 crime scenes. Each victim represented significant professional achievement. Each had attained public recognition and respect within their field. Each resided alone, which facilitated the offender's access and control. And each scene demonstrated what we term ritualistic staging, the careful, repeated arrangement of elements that serve a psychological purpose for the perpetrator. The mirrors themselves warranted particular attention. Forensic analysis revealed that the offender had entered each residence weeks prior to the actual offense. Tool marks on window frames and door locks indicated multiple reconnaissance visits. The offender studied his victims, their schedules, their habits, their routines. He selected nights when they would be alone, vulnerable, and unlikely to be disturbed.
Most significantly, physical evidence at each scene suggested a prolonged period of immobilization before death. Yet no ligature marks, no chemical restraints, no physical mechanisms of control were discovered. The victims had been held in place by psychological means alone. This indicated an offender with sophisticated understanding of human psychology and the ability to exert extreme psychological pressure. In forensic psychology, we understand that ritualistic behavior in serial offenses is never arbitrary. The ritual serves a specific psychological need for the offender. It provides satisfaction, release, or resolution of some internal conflict. The question before me was clear. What psychological need requires forcing successful individuals to confront their own reflections before taking their lives? I began constructing the psychological profile on June 3, 1947. The offender demonstrated several key characteristics. First, high intelligence and education. The sophistication of his psychological manipulation suggested advanced knowledge. Second, narcissistic pathology. The focus on mirrors, on reflection, on self-image indicated profound disturbance in self-perception. Third, feelings of inadequacy masked by grandiosity. He targeted individuals who possessed genuine achievement, suggesting he craved but lacked authentic success. The profile suggested a male between 25 and 35 years of age, highly educated, possibly in psychology or a related field, who had experienced recent and severe public humiliation. This humiliation would have shattered his carefully constructed self-image, creating what we term a narcissistic injury, a psychological wound so profound it destabilizes the entire personality structure. The breakthrough arrived on August 8, 1947, following the fourth victim. Professor Helena Wright, a respected psychologist at the University of California, was discovered in her Berkeley home. The staging matched previous scenes exactly. However, Professor Wright's professional files provided crucial evidence. Among her patient records from 1944, we discovered documentation of a graduate student named Daniel Morse. Professor Wright's clinical notes were thorough and deeply revealing. She described a 26-year-old male presenting with grandiose sense of self-importance, persistent need for admiration, lack of empathy, and what she termed a profound inner emptiness concealed beneath an elaborate psychological facade.
Most significantly, Professor Wright had documented recurring nightmares reported by this patient. In these dreams, Daniel Morse described standing before a mirror and seeing no reflection whatsoever, only empty glass staring back at him. Professor Wright interpreted this as symbolic of his fragile sense of identity, his fear that beneath the constructed persona, nothing authentic existed. Further investigation revealed that Daniel Morse had been expelled from the university's doctoral program in December 1944. His dissertation, titled "The Architecture of Self: Identity Formation in High-Achieving Individuals," had been discovered to contain extensive plagiarism. Entire sections had been appropriated from other researchers without attribution. The exposure was public, documented in university records, and resulted in permanent dismissal. For an individual with pathological narcissism, such public exposure represents catastrophic psychological trauma. The carefully maintained false self, the brilliant scholar, the rising academic star, was revealed as fraudulent. In psychological terms, the narcissistic injury was complete and devastating. What remains after such injury is often unprocessed rage, directed outward toward those who possess what the individual cannot authentically claim. The connection became clear. Daniel Morse had studied psychology, understood human behavior, and had written extensively about identity in high-achieving individuals, the very type of person he subsequently targeted. His victims weren't random. They represented everything he had pretended to be but could never authentically become. On September 12, 1947, following intensive investigation, we located Daniel Morse in an abandoned theater on Market Street. The building had once been an elegant performance venue, but had fallen into disrepair. What we discovered inside confirmed every element of the psychological profile. The main ballroom contained approximately 40 mirrors of varying sizes arranged throughout the space. Some hung on walls, others stood on easels, several lay on the floor at precise angles. In the geometric center of this arrangement sat Daniel Morse in a single wooden chair, surrounded by infinite reflections of himself, repeated endlessly in every direction. Detective Sarah Chen and I approached with extreme caution. Individuals experiencing narcissistic collapse can be unpredictable, particularly when confronted. I initiated contact using techniques designed to establish rapport and reduce threat perception. The conversation that followed lasted approximately 47 minutes.
I will recount the essential elements here, as they provide crucial insight into the psychological mechanisms underlying these offenses. Daniel Morse spoke first. "Do you see me, detective?" he asked. "Do you really see me?" His tone was not aggressive, but plaintive, almost desperate. This confirmed the hypothesis of profound identity disturbance. I responded by acknowledging what I believed to be his core psychological wound. I see someone who felt invisible his entire life, someone who constructed an elaborate persona because the authentic self never felt adequate or worthy of recognition. His reaction was notable, a hollow laugh, followed by a statement that revealed the depth of his pathology. "The real me? There is no real me. There never was. I'm just reflections, copies of copies, nothing original, nothing authentic." This statement encapsulates the essence of severe narcissistic personality disorder. The individual experiences themselves not as a coherent, integrated person, but as a collection of images, reflections, and performances created to elicit admiration from others. When those performances are exposed as false, the psychological structure collapses entirely. I continued the dialogue, attempting to help him articulate the motivation behind his actions. "So, you made them see it too. You made them sit there and realize that everything they thought they were, all their achievements, their identities, could vanish, just like yours did." His response was immediate and revealing. They had to understand, they had to know what it feels like, to look in the mirror and see nothing. This confession confirmed the psychological hypothesis. Daniel Morse was not simply taking lives out of rage or jealousy. He was forcing his victims to experience his own psychological torment, the terrifying recognition that identity, self-worth, and achievement are fragile constructs that can be destroyed. In making them face the mirror, he was making them face his existential horror. Daniel Morse was taken into custody on September 12, 1947. Following psychiatric evaluation, he was deemed not competent to stand trial and was committed to the California State Psychiatric Hospital, where he remains under treatment as of this report's completion in January 1948. The case presents several important findings for forensic psychology. First, it demonstrates how narcissistic personality disorder, when combined with severe narcissistic injury and certain predisposing factors, can manifest in violent behavior. Second, it illustrates the concept of projective identification, the offender forcing victims to experience his own unbearable psychological states. Third, it confirms that ritualistic behavior in serial offenses always serves specific psychological functions for the perpetrator. Narcissistic personality disorder, according to current clinical understanding, affects approximately 1% of the population. Its etiology is complex, involving childhood trauma, disrupted attachment, emotional neglect, and constitutional factors. The disorder exists on a spectrum from relatively mild to severely pathological. Most individuals with narcissistic traits never engage in violence. However, when narcissistic pathology reaches extreme levels, when narcissistic injury occurs, and when other risk factors align, the potential for dangerous behavior increases significantly. This case has taught the field several crucial lessons. The most dangerous offenders are not always those who reject their humanity, but sometimes those who cannot locate their humanity at all. When an individual experiences themselves as fundamentally empty, as nothing more than reflections and performances, the capacity for empathy, the ability to recognize others as real, feeling human beings, becomes severely compromised. The mirror killer case will remain in the forensic literature as an example of how psychological understanding can inform criminal investigation. By recognizing the ritualistic elements as psychologically meaningful rather than arbitrary, by constructing an accurate psychological profile, and by understanding the offender's internal experience, we were able to identify and apprehend an individual who would likely have continued his pattern indefinitely. The case files remain open. If this investigation into the criminal mind intrigued you, leave your analysis in the comments below. Subscribe to continue exploring the darkness with me, and if you found value in this psychological profile, let me know. Until next time, stay vigilant.